This might currently be the only fragrance in my collection with the note of black pepper that I will actually endorse. Can you guess what it is? Popcorn, drink, strap up, we're going for a ride. All right, welcome to the Scent Bubble. I'm your host for the afternoon, and again, just to clarify, when we talk about the note of pepper, I typically like pepper in the form of Szechuan pepper, pink pepper. But when it comes to black pepper, I feel like you have to treat it with severe caution. I think anytime you have a pretty solid dose of pepper in a fragrance, you automatically start adding years to the fragrance. Meaning, if I'm 20 years old and I smell like a heavy peppery fragrance, I automatically smell like I'm 10 years old or 30 years old. If I'm 40 years old and I'm rocking a fragrance, I immediately smell 50 or 60 years old. A great example of this is a fragrance like Chanel's Platinum Egoise. I love the DNA of that fragrance, but as soon as you're hit with that brash, hardcore black pepper note, it is just so off-putting and brash that it automatically makes you smell like an older man. I think maybe culture has something to do with it, you know what I'm saying? Because there's just no familiarity to my childhood or my youth where pepper was a note of anything that was bright, energetic, zesty. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just, only thing I know it for is being put on food. Black pepper on food. I know that when you smell pepper, it could be used on certain formulas to wake somebody up if they're unconscious. I mean, it's just like, it's too harsh. You have to treat it with such caution. It's like leather. You know what I'm saying? Like, too much leather immediately makes you smell like a cowboy. You know what I'm saying? An old cowboy at that. So again, this is a fragrance where I feel like it may be the only fragrance currently in my collection where the black pepper note is tamed so beautifully that I will let it rock. This is from the house of Jimmy Choo, and this is Man Intense. Now, I love this bottle. Rounded back, unlike Nautica Voyage, I think Nautica Voyage has just kind of like a straight back and a rounded front. This has like, it's like a smiley face. You know what I'm saying? Uh, but it's like, you know, almost like a charcoal black slash black gloss on that chrome leather cap. This fragrance just sitting on the collection looks like you got money and you mean business. And let me tell you something right off the bat. Um, I think this fragrance is extremely slept on. A lot of people know of this fragrance. A lot of people have put their nose to this fragrance. I don't think a lot of people have put this fragrance to skin enough to really evaluate its complexity. I think similar to La Nuit de l'Homme by YSL, people typically go for the other YSL stuff like YSL-Y and the Blue Electrique or whatever. I'm not sure if that's YSL. I think it is. Not Blue Electrique, but the other La Nuit de l'Homme. And they just overlook the very straight up basic YSL La Nuit de l'Homme, and it's got the most complexity to me out of the entire suite. I think there's matter of fact, let me look it up. I think there's Jimmy Choo Man Regular, there's Jimmy Choo Man Intense, there's Jimmy Choo Man Aqua, and there's Jimmy Choo. There's one more. I'm just looking it up. Then there's Ice. Yeah, there's Ice, Aqua, Man, and Man Intense. And so let's just talk Jimmy Choo Man, because I'm going to tell you right off the bat, Jimmy Choo Man is the better smelling fragrance. Okay, not the Intense. I think it's got a little bit, I think it's got the right concentration of heaviness where it's a dense fragrance, but it still comes off lighter on skin. and it makes it more delightful to smell. So the question becomes, well, why did you get Intense? I love this note profile so much that this was the math in my mind. You know, sometimes even though an eau de toilette or a non-intense fragrance is smells better, sometimes in my mind I think longevity and projection in use case, like where am I wearing this? How will I use it? Because if I have to spruce up with a fragrance and I'm in an environment where I can't really do that, I can't duck off to the bathroom as much, or maybe I just don't want to, or maybe it's a beast mode fragrance, so I'd rather go with the. This is something that I think a lot of people don't think about. If you have to apply more sprays of a fragrance that's more expensive, and the intense, you know, sometimes a regular and an intense smell entirely different. But I think Man Regular and Man Intense are so similar in profile. It just packs more of a punch in the Intense, obviously, that I'd rather spend the same money on Intense and spray less because it's more beast mode. So I'll give you an example. With Jimmy Choo Man, I probably would have went north of 6 sprays, maybe yeah, six to 8 sprays, maybe 10 depending on certain environments. No, you know what? This is very beast mode. This is at least an 8 in terms of beast mode scale. I would probably spray it 6 times in a regular use case. With Man Intense, I'm only spraying this less than 4 times, maybe even 3. Like left, right, back, and you are so good for so long with this fragrance. So it's almost like a money savings thing. I'm like, okay, let me just cop Intense. I'll spray less, and it actually has more character to me. But this is one of those bottles where you have to be so careful on the trigger finger. When you can aerate in certain environments and there's wind blowing and stuff like that, this is definitely a cold weather fragrance. But or let me say this: if you're in warm weather, it's an indoor fragrance. If air is wafting through the building, you can get away with 4 to 6, depending on how, if you're traveling around, you're going from point A to point B, you're changing environments. But if you're staying in like 1 or 2 environments the whole time, 3 or less, chill. You know what I'm saying? Again, Jimmy Choo Man might off first face value seem like the better fragrance, but you're going to be spraying it a lot more. And I just think at that point, you might as well just save money and go Intense, because you're going to smell a little bit richer with Intense. But as a result, you can go less sprays. So either one, if you have Man, don't get Intense, vice versa. But this fragrance is extra slept on. To my nose, what do I smell? There's so many things going on to it. Again, when you can take a lot of layering to a fragrance but make it kind of translate as one smell, but kind of take your nose on an exploration of notes, where when somebody comes up to you, they're always going to get a different angle of the notes, but it doesn't smell disjointed. It still smells all together. It just has such an allure where you appreciate different parts of it. I smell spice. I smell sweet. I smell aromatic. I smell zest. I smell floral. Like it just, I can't describe this fragrance to you right now, guys. Like we have to start with the notes, and then I have to explain to you what's dominant and what's not. So let's go ahead and go to Fragrantica real quick. I do think that this is superior to Aqua and Ice, by the way. Not saying those fragrances aren't good. I just think this one has the most versatility, even though it's not Aqua, or, you know, it's not a blue fragrance. I still think this has the most versatility in its category. Very unique fragrance. Again, I think a lot of that's due to like the combination between melon and geranium here. I think that's very, you know, I don't want to say polarizing, but just think of when you smell a cantaloupe, right? Think of just how unique that aspect of melon is. It's a different type of sweet. You know, it's not the same sweet as a strawberry or an apple. It's melon. Then when you go to orange, you have that citrus zest, where it's almost citric, but it still leans sweet, but orange tinges it because orange is very distinct. Then you have geranium, which honestly can take on so many different forms here. But I think the geranium just pops all the notes off of this fragrance. The usual suspects in the base, I think, is what gives it some familiarity. You have tonka bean, patchouli, labdanum in the base. That is a very safe, sweet, spicy kind of base, or sorry, sweet, earthy kind of base. But then you pack the interest all on the top. And I do believe that the top and heart notes stay with the fragrance. You don't just get to base where you're like, oh, all I have is a sweet, earthy fragrance on the bottom. No, that melon stays. That orange stays. To be honest, the lavender stays. The black pepper is more spicy up front, but on dry down, it kind of actually warms up to where it's no longer brash. It smells peppery, but it doesn't smell harsh peppery. The stuff that when you smell it makes your nose hairs tingle. Not at all. Maybe initially, but after about a minute or two of the dry down on skin, it just warms up into kind of a slight brashness to these fruits, florals, and sweetness. Artemisia, I'm new to that, so let's just see. So it's a fougere green herb. Okay. Strong herbal plant known for its aromaticness. Okay. So this fragrance definitely is aromatic. If I could put this fragrance in a nutshell to you guys, just to let your imagination kind of sit somewhere stable with, okay, what might this smell like? This smells Okay, so picture this base of sweet tonka bean, right? And it's slightly harsh on the sweetness of the tonka bean. I'm talking 10% or less sitting on tonka bean, right? But then over the top of it, the zest part of the fragrance is orange, geranium, melon, and lavender. And I know that's going to be like, well, what? That's not helpful at all. But trust me when I say, if you get close to the fragrance, and I don't just think this is a test strip thing, I think if it's on skin, you will recognize it as well. This is the scent trail that your nose will go on. When I get close to this fragrance, sometimes I smell melon lavender. Sometimes I smell distinctly orange. Sometimes I smell geranium. They're all so close that depending how the air hits it, I would say maybe it leans melon lavender, but in such a subtle, alluring, mysterious way. The backbone, I would say 40%, 50% of this fragrance is the tonka bean pepper aspect of it. Like almost like 40% tonka bean, 10% pepper. But then the patchouli artemisia part aromatics that up about 20%. So now we got, about 30% left, and that 30% is just wafts of geranium lavender or melon lavender or orange lavender. The melon sticks its head out the most, but sometimes you go nose blind and kind of smell it as mandarin orange. This is the best that I can give you guys for this fragrance in terms of trying to wrap your nose around it. What I will say, so think sweet, earthy touch of pepper with melon fruit floral on the top, just dancing on it with about 30%, where it's not too light where it's dominantly just sweet pepper, like an Assad, like just, I can't even believe I just said Assad comparatively to this fragrance, but I'm talking about that harshness, that brashness that you would smell, or like Platinum Egoist. No, there's plenty of fruit florals sitting on that top. Remember, 30% is like, hey, we're there, but we're like the sprinkles on the cupcake. This is more sweet, peppery, earthy with just a nice coat on top of fruit floral. In a nutshell, again, we're at the 15-minute mark, and I haven't even got past the first point of this fragrance. The bottom line is, get into a Sephora or a fragrance store and smell this. I truly believe that if you smell this, which a lot of people do, and they say, well, it's interesting, but I don't know if it's worth buying the bottle. Immediately shut your mouth, put it on skin. One spray is all you need. I don't care if you have Man or Man Intense. Put that on your skin. Do not smell it until the shine goes away. Aerate that thing until it actually settles on skin. And when you put your nose to that, you will smell sophistication. You will smell complexity, where each time you go to your arm, it's constantly got you wondering what notes are in it. It's got sweetness. It's got charm. It's got such a maturity to it, and it has distinction in terms of its DNA to most of the things you would have on your shelf. Again, it's similar to L'Homme. It's similar to L'Homme, and I was saying La Nuit de L'Homme earlier, but I meant to say L'Homme, YSL L'Homme. It has a similar complexity as this juice, where every time I go back to the original L'Homme, I just get its beauty. I smell the basil. I smell the floral. I smell the complexity of it, but it still translates very singularly, where it's like, wow, that blend is just crazy good. So similarly, there's so much nuance in this fragrance. You'll continue to come back to it, though it doesn't smell disjointed. It doesn't smell like a confused fragrance. It smells like a unique power. Anyway, okay, let me speed through here, guys, because I think majority of this talk needed to be around wrapping your nose around what this fragrance is and some of the things I felt like dispelling about this fragrance. But yeah, put it on skin and let it sit, and you will really appreciate this fragrance. I wouldn't say it's blind buy worthy, because again, this is name brand. So you're going to spend anywhere between 80 to $100 for a fragrance like this. On a good deal, maybe 60, 70, but it is well worth it. It is going to be a staple in your collection, especially if you don't have a DNA like this. And everyone loves this fragrance. Compliment factor, that's something we don't talk a lot about on this channel, but I think the compliment factor is absolutely high on this. Let's go through very briefly. Use cases: cold weather fragrance, indoor fragrance, work. You know, if you don't work a super casual job, this is going to smell phenomenal on you. Anything lightly serious and up, anything formal, this is certainly suit and tie worthy. Anywhere from the funeral to the wedding, this smells absolutely incredible. Date night, absolutely. Holiday, absolutely. Yeah, man. So from the business suit to the romance category / just cold weather, this is the special. This could be a signature scent for anybody in any of those categories. I think it's 25 and up for sure. If you're a younger guy, I think you absolutely have to go with Man Regular and not Man Intense, because you want to eau de toilette-tize the fragrance. I think if you're sitting under 25, you want it to be a little bit lighter. I wouldn't waste your money. I don't want to say waste your money, but I wouldn't switch over and go aqua or ice per se. I think you need to start with Man and just avoid the intense, and then maybe get your nose on aqua or ice. I know they're good fragrances, and I do think they're decent, but I just think the OG here is the talk of the town signature scent in my eyes. Price per ml, it's 100 ml. Let's see what it's running right now. Okay, so for the 3.3, oh wow, they actually have the 200 ml going for 100. That's incredible. 93 for the 3.35, so the 100 ml is, wow, you might as well get the freaking 200 ml right now. Yeah, so Jimmy Choo Man, the 200 ml, I'm seeing around $90 to $100. That's an absolute steal for the 200 ml. So you might even be able to get the 100 ml for around the 50, 60 buck category. But if it was me, I would go all the way up to 90. Again, this is a complexity and a type of note breakdown where thankfully you can go into a Sephora or a Macy's or a Neiman Marcus and get your nose on this before you pull the trigger. But I definitely think, you know, this is a signature scent that you want in your collection. You don't necessarily need 200 ml, but for the price, that's an absolute steal. If you find it, here's what I'll say. I have seen it at TJ Maxx and different disc. Oh, sorry, a little skip up there. I have seen it at TJ Maxx in their discounter section for around 40, but I think that might have been the 1.7 ml, not the 3.3. Either way, you determine what bottle size you want. This will be worn by me for a long time. I think it sits easily in the top 10 for fragrances of its category. Final thoughts on this fragrance. I just think in the cold weather, indoor, funeral to wedding, romance, anything above casual, semi-formal and up, this is a showstopper fragrance that I feel the crowd as well as yourself gets something new out of it every single time. And that's a beautiful fragrance to me. Something that is reminiscent, but draws the nose to it for different reasons, depending on occasion and setting. Projection and longevity, guys. You guys heard what I said about this, man. If you get the Intense, 3 sprays is going the whole day. It's going the whole distance. If you have Man, start from 6 and work your way up if need be. Beast mode fragrance. I would even call it, I said 8 earlier, probably 9. It's even itching my nose right now. It's so beast mode, but I just love wafting this fragrance. It's absolutely incredible. Listen, guys, do you guys have Jimmy Choo Man? Did you go the extent of putting it on skin and not just putting it on the test strip? Let me know in the comments below. Appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoy this fragrance, and have a blessed week. Talk to you soon.